Experts believe that this may be the end of education as we know it. The school that you once knew will close. The education that your children once received or that you received will be gone. Things are changing as we speak for one very important reason, and I want to explain what is going on at this time. The federal government has their hand in this. It is a huge, huge issue, and millions of people all around the United States are protesting again as we speak. So I'm going to break all this down in just a moment. All I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So what exactly is going on? Why are millions of people protesting as we speak? Well, it has to do with this. Just listen.
As we reach the end of the school year, school districts are bracing for a massive round of teacher layoffs.
That's just the start. School districts cannot afford the amount of teachers that they have hired over the past few years. And so what are they going to do? Well, they're going to let a lot of those employees go. This means teachers, this means school staff, custodians, it could be a bus driver, a maintenance person. Every single position is now at risk. I want to show you some things. Just look at this. These are just different areas that are experiencing potential layoffs. Just look. It says Denver teachers bear the brunt of layoffs amid declining enrollment. Michigan schools may lose more than 5,000 teachers due to funding shortfalls, according to a report. Moses Lake School District approves layoff after budget deficit. And hundreds of LA Unified students skip class to protest teacher layoffs. All this stuff is happening as we speak. Okay? One thing I want to just explain though. This is something that is starting to turn into a massive issue. A massive issue. Because what's going on at this time is we are now realizing that we grew too fast. And think about this for a second. If you remember back in 2021, 2022, many businesses, they hired too many people. They hired so many people. We were starting to get a little more efficient and machines were starting to take over positions, and then they had to let go of those people. Schools didn't necessarily have to do that. Now they do. And I want to play this clip for you as well, because what we are now facing is schools now have to fix their budgets, because one of the big funding things that they received from the federal government, this is going to expire in September. Listen to this.
The last thing in the world we want to do is lay off a single teacher, a single maintenance mechanic or custodian or teacher aide. We need to make sure that our revenues, our enrollment, our staffing are all in balance.
So he's saying that they need to make sure that their revenues and everything, their enrollments, they're all in balance. And he's saying that the budget that he planned is supposed to do that. Well, that's part of the issue. If we see teachers get laid off, what's going to happen to the education? Is it going to be somewhat diminished? Well, I want to show you something. It says teacher layoffs loom as schools face loss of pandemic funds. It says researchers estimate over 380 full-time staff could lose jobs. It says high poverty schools are at the greatest risk of severe job cuts, and the funding cliff compounds challenges like learning loss. Now, I want to address all those. Okay? The first one, what about the pandemic aid? What about this? Well, let's read it. It says pandemic aid comes to an end. After the COVID pandemic hit in 2020, Congress authorized 3 rounds of federal funding to help K-12 schools respond. Between March 2020 and March 2021, lawmakers authorized $190 billion in funding for K-12 schools, which was roughly 6 times what they received from the federal government in a normal year. Now, this was huge. The initial round of funding went to buying masks, providing masks to teachers, setting up the plexiglass shields in between desks. It went to upgrading HVAC systems. That's what the initial amount of money went to. But then the rest of the money went to hiring teachers for learning loss, opening up new programs and for tutoring and summer school and extending school days and having people come in for somewhat of a free childcare. Well, they ran out of money. They can't keep that stuff going. And this is why some say that the education that you were used to, well, this is going to end. Now, I want to show you something else. Because again, in this article right here, it says about 380,000 full-time staff could lose their jobs. We are already seeing this, where teachers around the state are already being told, hey, you don't have a job after this summer. Sorry, but we're not going to rehire you. You'll have to find something else. Look at this. How many teachers are at risk? It says, it may seem counterintuitive to be concerned about teacher layoffs when many districts have been struggling to fill positions. But, especially in math, science, and special education subjects and in rural areas. But here's the interesting thing. It says it's hard to know just how many educator jobs are at risk across the country. But if staffing levels were to fall back to the same levels they were before the pandemic in 2018 and 19, districts would need to lay off 384,000 full-time staff. Here's where this is very concerning. If we were to lay off 384,000 people in the school systems, that would be a massive shift, and education as we know it would end. But here's where it gets worse. They are saying that right now, the amount of the enrollments in certain schools are so low, 384,000 is just the beginning. We could easily top 500,000 educators. 500,000 teachers and staff, school district staff, could lose their jobs within the next 6 months. That's how serious this is. Now, who's going to get hit the hardest? Well, it says the federal pandemic aid law directs states to disperse the money like they do Title I funding, which means more money goes to districts with more low-income families, and those could be the ones facing the biggest budget shortfalls now. So because of Title I, the majority of the money, or more of it, goes to the lower income, or not lower income families, but lower income districts. Okay, the districts with more lower income families. The reason why that is such a big deal is because those districts are usually the ones that need more staff. They need more teachers per students. Because it's not going to work if you have one teacher, one educator, okay, one your supervisor for 85 students. It doesn't work. You need one to like 22 to 25. That's what you see in the maybe kind of the higher end neighborhoods, higher end districts. But the lower end, it's like one educator for 48 students. It's a huge, huge change. But these are the ones that are expected to get hit the hardest, where you're going to see some of the teachers that are there because they absolutely love it. The students love having them there. Their job may be at risk. They may not be there come September. So that's an issue. All I can tell you right now is honestly, this is the end of education as we know it. Are we going to see, schools potentially shut down? Yes. Are we going to see students decide to enroll in an online school? Potentially, yes. And right now that we are starting to see the economy shift and people are getting laid off in other industries as well, one of the concerns, and I talked to a friend of mine just recently about this, is his nephew, I believe, niece, they are going to stop going to school. They're a junior, so they'll be in 11th grade this year. But they're going to stop going to school because the dad was just laid off from his job, and so he has to go get a different job. And so the dad and the kid are both going to work to help pay for some of the bills for the family. Well, you can't do that if you're always at school. So this is where some are most likely going to start going to an online school where they can do pretty much learn on their own time and go to work. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. All I can tell you right now is, for me, I'm a little concerned about what happens over the next potentially 2 to 5 years. We are going to see education and public schools completely shift. I just don't know what they look like. So we'll see that moving forward. All I can tell you is I will be here every step of the way. I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.